Last night, I was working on today's story when I received an email from a subscriber named Dave. After reading Dave's amazing NDE, I decided it just had to be heard and pushed Dave's story straight to the front of the line. Dave writes, "Dear Beyond Death, let me begin by saying I am a new subscriber to your channel and have been binge-watching near-death experience videos all day. I also subscribe to 2 other channels I found just as interesting, Jeff Mara Podcast and Heaven Awaits. I have my own near-death experience to share. Why do they call them that? I was most certainly dead. To better understand my near-death experience, I have to take you back to when I was a child. At the age of 2, I was removed from my home and made a ward of the state of Alabama. I grew up in a boys' home for not only boys in my circumstance, but we also had juvenile delinquents and straight-up orphans as well. The people who ran the boys' home received money from the state and maybe even the federal government to house, clothe, and feed us, but the funds were not really spent on us. Oh, we ate, but it was hardly what would pass as food, and all of our clothes came from donations made to the home or were hand-me-downs. At school, we faced ridicule from the other students because we could not afford the name-brand shoes or even tickets to the Friday football game. At the age of 16, we could get a job which sounded pretty good until we were told we had to begin paying the boys' home a large portion of our paycheck. It was stated they would save it for when we turned 18 and aged out. Aging out was what they called it. Essentially, it was being thrown out into the world with the clothes on our backs and a check for $250. Who knows where the rest of the money they took from us went? It didn't matter that many of us were still seniors in high school when we aged out. At 18, we were gone. I think that is when the state would no longer pay for us to be there or something. It led to me becoming homeless on my 18th birthday. Happy birthday to me. This is about the time I learned to hitchhike and soon knew all the public places I could hang out at just to be indoors during bad weather and such. I also learned which fast food workers were cool and would risk their jobs to sneak you a free hamburger if nobody was watching. I soon found myself thrown out of school as well when I beat the crap out of a guy that told everyone he saw me panhandling, and other students began to throw change at me. Teachers didn't care. The administration didn't care. My own parents must not have even cared because I was raised in that place, then discarded like trash. One day, while I was at work in the mall, I worked for a well-known shoe store. I was offered a good bit of money to help a dozen pair of the new Jordans to walk out the store. I needed the money, so I did it. Up until that minute, I had never stolen anything in my life. This became a regular arrangement for a brief time until I was met as I clocked in for my shift by mall security. They had videotape of me taking the merchandise, so I was charged and booked. But because I had never been in any trouble before, I was given a PR bond. Once I was out of the holding cell and back on the street, I ran into a guy I knew that had also aged out, and after drinking way more than we should have, we decided to take a car. This led to a high-speed chase, which ended when I rolled the vehicle trying to make a hard right at way too fast a speed. And that brings us to my NDE. I found myself standing beside the mangled heap of metal and fiberglass that had been a car only a moment before, as the police rushed up to the driver's window, which was completely shattered. From where I was standing, I could see myself slumped over the steering wheel. There was no movement at all, and I didn't care. I felt no pain. Looking around, I expected to find a dead relative or an angel or something to take me to heaven, but there is nothing. All I saw were the police lights and my friend, who had not been wearing a seat belt and was ejected from the wreck, being tended to by rescue workers. I had been wearing my seat belt, and I'm the one who died. Isn't that par for the course, I thought. I heard it before I saw it. It came at me with a very loud screeching sound, and at a rapid rate of speed, and was suddenly dragging me towards a dark pit that had opened in the ground. I screamed for help, but there was none to save me. How could the police not hear me? This demon spawn clawed and dragged me deeper and deeper and faster until I finally just succumbed to my fate. At the bottom of the pit, the demon deposited me into a lake of fire with a force I did not know could exist. There were other lost souls all around me, so many that you couldn't move, and the pain was worse than any ever experienced on earth. I could feel my skin melting away, but it never really ended. It was almost like you rejuvenated new skin as fast as the old skin would melt, so the torture would never end. All around me I heard people screaming and crying and begging for death. I have no idea how long I was in that lake of fire, but it felt like 100 lifetimes. Now, I was never religious. I was never taken to a church in my life. But from television, I could tell you who Jesus and God was. And that may be all that saved me. In pure agony, I screamed out as loud as I could, "Why me, God? Why me?" I never had a chance. No sooner had I uttered those words than a man I assumed at the time to be Jesus flew down into the pit, and with him, he brought 2 angels. As Jesus parted the sea of souls, the angels grabbed me beneath my arms and flew me out of that pit. The pain immediately went away, and as I turned to Jesus to thank him for saving me, he spoke. Jesus asked me why I said I never had a chance, to which I stated everything I mentioned above. And then he asked me, "Is that what hardened your heart?" "Yes," I replied. And then Jesus said to me, "If I send you back to earth, I must first tell you your life will not get easier. You have a hard path ahead of you. Can you walk it?" "Yes," I again replied. If I said no, I do not know if I would have been cast back into the lake of fire or allowed to stay in heaven, and the thought of returning to hell was too much for me. In tears, I begged Jesus to allow me the chance to walk that path, no matter what it may bring with it. One last thing happened before I was returned to my body. I was shown a glimpse of things to come. I saw myself being sentenced to prison for the crimes I had committed. I saw people in the streets of major cities wearing surgical masks, but did not know at that time why they would be doing so. I saw bombs dropping on cities and mangled bodies left decaying in the streets, and I saw hunger everywhere. "What is this you have shown me?" I asked. Jesus replied, "It is not long now before the trumpets will sound. Those that can endure the coming times will spend eternity in the kingdom my Father has provided." With that, Jesus nodded his head, and the same angels who had pulled me from the lake of fire again grabbed my arms, only this time they deposited me back into my body. I came to in the ambulance and in pain. This pain felt good, though after what I had experienced it was nothing. Paramedics told me that I flatlined for over 3 minutes in the back of the ambulance, and I had to be jolted back to life. From the wreck, I suffered a large gash to my head, a broken wrist, a shattered tibia, and many minor cuts and abrasions. I was told by police and doctors that I was lucky to be alive. I did get charged, and this time stayed in jail until I went to court, where I was sentenced to 2 years in prison to be followed up with another year of probation once I got out. I did not serve the entire 2 years due to a certain pandemic that hit the world in 2019, and so far most everything Jesus showed me has come to pass. I do not know when the trumpets will sound, but I fully believe that too will pass just as I was told. Thank you for listening to my near-death experience, and please feel free to narrate it if you wish or if you think it may help someone else. Sincerely, Dave. Thank you, Dave, for sharing your experience with this channel and our viewers. If you have a near-death experience you would like to share with this channel, please email it to the email address listed in the description. And if you want it narrated, you will have to state in writing that I have your permission to do so.